Are you interested in your goal, or are you committed to it? I've experienced this in my life, and let me tell you, the difference is everything. Hey everyone, Mickey Campbell here, author of Make It Happen and founder of Get Right Personal Training. I would like to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Transformation Talk Tuesday. The goal of this show is to help anyone looking to transform their body, mind, and spirit find success on their journey. We will discuss starting the journey, what you should be doing, and overcoming some of the obstacles that will inevitably come up along the way. Today's episode is titled Flip the Switch. Now, as you know, I'm very interested in self-improvement in all areas, body, mind, and spirit. I mean, after all, that's what transformation is all about. So I study this area a good bit, a lot through books, blogs, podcasts, YouTube shows, and things like that. One of my favorites is a guy named Ed Mylett. If you haven't heard of him, look him up. He puts out some really amazing content. The bulk of his work is done in the form of interviews. And the other day, I watched him interview John Assaraf. Now, John Assaraf is a lecturer, entrepreneur, author, and behavior expert who focuses on brain research and brain retraining. He's appeared on Larry King Live, Anderson Cooper, The Ellen DeGeneres Show, and much more. He's been featured in 8 movies, including The Secret and Quest for Success with Richard Branson and the Dalai Lama. He's the founder and CEO of NeuroGym, a company that focuses on brain training methods. But during this particular interview with Ed, he told an interesting story about the first meeting he had with his original mentor, a gentleman named Mr. Brown. His brother introduced them at a very early age when John was trying to find his way, from what he said, not really having any good luck in doing so. Mr. Brown asked John to write down for him all of his goals, everything he wanted to achieve. So he did. He wrote out exactly what he wanted, what he wanted to achieve, when did he want to retire, how much money did he want to make, the house, the car, everything. So John wrote it all out and gave it back to Mr. Brown. After reading over the list, Mr. Brown said, "Listen, son, all of this is possible, but I'm going to ask you one question, and this one question will determine whether you have this or you don't." Of course, John was thinking, come on, one question. And Mr. Brown asked, "Are you interested in achieving these goals and having this type of lifestyle, or are you committed to it?" Confused, John asked, "What's the difference?" Mr. Brown explained, "If you're interested, you'll do what's easy and convenient. If you're interested, you'll allow your stories and excuses to give you stories for reasons why you can't do these things. If you're interested, all obstacles will come bigger than your vision and your goals. But if you're committed, you'll do whatever it takes. You'll upgrade your knowledge, you'll upgrade your skills, you'll develop the beliefs and the habits to match the vision and the goal." Then Mr. Brown asked, "Well, son, which are you?" John replied that he was committed. Mr. Brown smiled and reached out his hand, shook John's hand and said, "Well, in that case, I'll be your mentor." John goes, "Wow, that's great, but what exactly does that mean?" Mr. Brown said, "Well, I'll teach you. I've already achieved all these goals you have listed here 10 times over. And the first thing I'll need you to do is move from Montreal, where John was living at the time, to Toronto." John says, "Move? I can't do that. I don't have a car. I don't have a job in Toronto." And just giving all the excuses as to why he couldn't move. Mr. Brown stopped him, saying, "There you go, already giving me excuses." John says, "I know, but this is the truth." Mr. Brown tells John, "Son, here's your first lesson. First, set the goal. You make a commitment to achieve the goal. Then, figure out how you're going to do it." John says, fine, I'll move to Toronto." To which Mr. Brown replied, "Great. The second thing I want you to do is enroll in a real estate class." That class started within a few weeks of this conversation. I don't remember all the details, but it was a 5-week course from 9 to 5, and it was $500. John says, "Excuse me, $500? And you want me to go back to school? He explained that he was a terrible student. He had failed English. He failed math. Ended up getting kicked out. He says, I just don't have the money. Mr. Brown says, there you go again. Look how fast you go back to your story. John said, but Mr. Brown, I'm no good in school. I just didn't do well. And he starts to give him all the whole story again. And Mr. Brown goes, stop it. Are you interested or are you committed? John says, Mr. Brown, I've already said I'm committed. Mr. Brown says, well, good. Then make the decision to make the commitment and we'll figure out all the rest. Long story short, John made the commitment. He said, fine, I'll do it. His brother and some other family members loaned him some money. He made the move, enrolled in the school, and 5 weeks later, he passed the test, became a real estate agent, and went on to achieve his goals and even surpass his original dream. How about you? How about you and your transformation? Are you interested or committed? I know for me, the difference is night and day. Those that know me well will attest to the fact that once I'm committed to it, it's like I flip a switch. No obstacle, no excuse, or no one will stop me. But if I'm not committed, I'm not focused, I'm easily distracted, and I find every reason in the world and under the sun not to get it done, just not to get it done. I remember about 20 years ago, I was interested in doing a bodybuilding competition. I didn't really know much about contest prep, or really, I didn't know anything. I realized if I was going to do this, I needed help. And who better to reach out to for that help than my childhood hero, who happened to be an 8-time Mr. Olympia, Lee Haney. I contacted Mr. Haney. That's a funny story, by the way. Maybe I'll share it on one of my episodes of Freestyle Friday. But anyway, after contacting Mr. Haney, we scheduled an appointment for me to go down to Atlanta and meet him and train with him at his gym down there. When I got there, I told him how excited I was to finally meet him and for the opportunity to be able to work with him. And that I would do anything he recommended for me to do in order to prepare for this competition. The workout was fine. Weight training has been and always probably will be a passion for me. It's something that I enjoy and have no problem pushing myself to the limit. After that, we discussed training strategies and he showed me some tricks with a few different techniques. We began to discuss what the plan would be, and he recommended that I increase my cardio by doing more cardio workouts and upping the intensity. I said, that'd be hard for me because I hate cardio. I just hate cardio. And I just don't know if I'll have the time. Mr. Haney explained to me that if I really wanted to do well in this competition, I was going to need to make sacrifices and find a way to make myself get the work in. I said, yes, sir, I'll do it. Then we began to talk about the nutritional strategies that he would recommend that I would need to implement in order for me to get in the best shape possible for me by the day of the upcoming competition. He began to write out a diet for me, and I saw him put eggs down for the first meal. I said, Mr. Haney, I'm sorry, but I just don't like eggs. He shook his head and began to explain to me all of the research that had gone into eating eggs and the benefits of people that ate eggs. I reluctantly agreed, but asked, wasn't there something I could substitute? And by the way, I don't care for oatmeal or all the vegetables on here either. Is there something else I can do? I was sitting with the man that to me and many other fans of the sport of bodybuilding would consider the greatest bodybuilder of all time, laying out a plan for me to bring the best physique possible to this competition that I wanted to do. And all I was doing was making excuses for why I couldn't do what he recommended and justifying my inabilities with stories of why it wouldn't work for me. See, I wasn't committed to that competition. I was just interested in it. And I half-tail did what Lee Haney recommended that I do. And I didn't develop a physique worthy of stepping onto a bodybuilding stage. But then, in 2010, I was committed to bringing the best possible me to the stage at the South Carolina NPC State Championships. I flipped the switch and did what Mr. Haney had recommended to me several years earlier. I ate the eggs every day. I did the cardio and then some. I devoured all the vegetables and stayed on track with the plan. I placed third in my class. A tough class, I might add, and was awarded Inspirational Athlete. This was the culmination of my transformation journey. I can think of several other examples in my life where I've been interested in something and let everything under the sun distract me or hold me back from going after it and achieving what I was going for. And then other examples of commitment when I totally flipped the switch and crushed it. How about you? Are you interested or committed when it comes to your transformation goals? Do you find yourself coming up with excuses, or do you find that you're willing to and doing what it takes? Jim Rohn has a famous quote that goes something like, if you want something and you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. I encourage you, if you're tired of the way things are and truly want to transform your body, mind, and spirit, to make the decision, to make the commitment, flip the switch and make it happen. Remember, you are worthy, and I believe in you.